Hello again, folks. Today I would like to talk about video games, particularly multiplayer games, particularly where things are headed, where we are right now, what has become of us. And that is an interesting tale. But let's talk about it. So I'm sure, as a lot of you gamers know, video games these days are questionable at best. Gaming, just as a whole, isn't very fun anymore, especially as it would appear online games. I would like to think about that. Because any game can be fun when you're with the bros and you're just S-posting, you're living the dream. You're talking about crime statistics and stuff that would get you banned if you repeated them in a university or workplace. You're doing all sorts of fun stuff as a group of, a small group of friends. So what's the big problem then? Why are multiplayer games seemingly unplayable in modern day? And I don't use the word unplayable lightly. I feel like, at least to me, any sort of multiplayer game in modern day, in modernity, is just simply unfeasible. It's unenjoyable. Other people ruin the experience. And why is that? How did we go from having the gaming community, although a little toxic, how did it go from being this fun, group of edgy white boys to what it is presently? And when you think about it, when you really think about it, the demographics of gamers are the only thing that's changed. Sure, studios from the top are making woke garbage media, but the quality of a game isn't nearly as important as the people playing the game when it's a multiplayer game. Single-player games like this definitely require, a decent game, a decent framework, non-woke framework to be enjoyable, to have some story or some meta-story. Even in the case of, stupid block game or whatever you want to play, or some random eroge from a decade ago, right? Or whatever you're doing with your free time now. But me personally, I would say the demographics of gamers are why video games in modern day, specifically multiplayer games, are unplayable. Even a game that's objectively awful, like retail World of Warcraft, could still be playable in a single player experience. If all of the other players were just robots, if everything was just automated, and you kind of just, got your score based on whatever role you played in comparison to everyone else with said bots, it wouldn't be a great game, but it would be playable, it would be passable, even a game as bad as Retail WoW. The problem with Retail WoW comes in when you actually try and play it, as I did during Dragonflight Season 1, for instance. And to get your weekly plus 20 done, you need to play with the Chinese, with the non-English speaking, with the Brazilians. I think a great example of this is a game like Dota 2. Dota 2 in particular. And no matter where you play Dota 2, in the entire global homo world, somewhere you're going to have people that don't speak your language that are going to be forcefully integrated on you by the global homo agenda. You're going to have, foreigners, subhumans. Tyrone is up on his Xbox at 3 a.m. He been down to boot. Can't even understand what this big snoot is saying half the time. Like, the difference between the races come out so clearly in video games, like the aptitude, the skill, the communication, all of those things that are just genetic in nature, almost mimetic in nature, come out when you're trying to play a video game. And just being forced to interact with those people, even if you're just beating them, even if it's like, a first-person shooter or whatever, and you're just you're putting your crosshair on them and giving them the old whack, even then, it's still nearly unplayable. It's still experience ruining to have to deal with this. So, there is no real solution in the global homo world to multiplayer games. And me personally, I'm probably going to phase out MMOs from my gaming digest, honestly, at this point. Like, the more I think about it, and the more, ones I try, and the more, communities I see if I want to join, not just the paused, little white boys pretending to be girls and all of the other horrible things now in the gaming community. Like the way HRT ran through, gaming communities, like crack cocaine ran through the black communities in the 70s. Like, it's almost applicable. But gaming as a whole, and gamers as a whole, have fallen to the global homo contagion. It's no longer a rich white boys club. It's no longer some edgy cringe lords having fun and enjoying, stories about Judeo-Christian values. What it is now is it's some Marxist global homo contamination, some awful melting pot in which no one has any fun at all, and you're all forced to try and coordinate with people that you want nothing to do with, people that are barely even human, I would consider most of them. And that's the reality of modern day multiplayer gaming. I think why I liked old school RuneScape, for instance, in Iron Man mode, was because it was a mostly single player experience, and the other people were basically just bots. And that's the only reason I even liked that game so much before it went woke. But at the end of the day, they're going to come for your hobbies no matter what they are. No matter which video game it is, no matter which cringe shenanigans it is. The clown world will honk on, and it'll come, and it'll take what you enjoy, and it's going to corrupt it. It's going to force a bunch of Chinese, Zhaos, a bunch of Brazilians, hue, a bunch of Russians, Privyet, Horosho, into your bloody game, and it's going to overrun and ruin it. Just objectively true. There is nowhere to hide anymore, realistically. There is nothing you can do except retreat to indie development, indie video games, escape the tyrannical global homo agenda, and just do your own thing, live your own life. As I've been saying for a while now, start backing up all of your media. They're going to come for it. All of this live service stuff. It's going to get utterly ruined. It's going to get contaminated and controlled. There is no solution other besides just praying you can dodge the horrors of what's about to come. There is nothing you can do. White people as just a population, even Jewish people as just a population of the world, are still a tiny fraction. The Mongol hordes are at the gate. The barbarians are coming. The internet was just the first place that they've come from. And as things continue to degrade, as the uncouth invaders go into your spaces, take the things you love and destroy them, it's just what it is. That's just how it's going to be. So, going forward, if you're someone that enjoyed MMOs, like most of my life, I have played MMOs from very early on. Like, I started with Diablo in 1998. I played RuneScape after that. Then I played World of Warcraft. That was basically my gaming life for a long time, was MMO-based games, because I enjoyed gaming communities. And now, the only thing you can really do is play games with small groups of gamers. So, if you're in this kind of situation, if you're in this clown world and this honking and you want to escape, you've just got to find small groups of like-minded people and then figure out how you're going to go about things and then make it work. There's still things you can enjoy out there, even if they're not old things, but exposing yourself to any sort of dungeon finder, any sort of public matchmaking, anything like that, simply untenable. It's all for naught. At the end of the day, there is nothing you can do to stem the tide of what's coming. You can only really hope, and it's a big hopium, that what comes next is something that's different, something that's a return to normalcy. You have to hope that in the end times that are coming, that we win the culture war, that, things go our way, in essence. And if they don't, if the Marxists win the final apocalyptic battle, then there really isn't much of a hope about anything, really. Then all you can do is just pray that for the end times, that they end quickly, that the next Marxist dark age that we're entering into passes us on by, And worse comes to worse, all things are transient. The human race is probably transient. Your life is certainly transient. There is an end at some point to the clown world, to the honking. So you simply will have to figure out a way to cope. And just like with relationships, just like with everything else, the future is in coping with the complete destruction of our morals, our civilization, and our culture. And frankly, it can't come soon enough. It's a depressing sight, and it's a depressing thing, but multiplayer games simply aren't feasible anymore to be enjoyable. You will be forced to play with the cringe lords. You will be forced to deal with Abdul, with Jaja, with Xin Bing Bao, Wan Ding Dong. You will have them all in your lobbies. You will be forced to join their groups. You'll be forced to either not run the dungeon or have them in your groups because no one plays because everyone who's worth a damn has left. And that's just the reality in a global homo world. Maybe there'll be another big thing in the gaming sphere soon. Maybe at some point things can be better. But right now, I would not hold my breath. But there are enjoyable experiences. There are still things you can do. And with that, best of luck out there finding something you can do to pass the time until it all comes crashing down on your head.